Church leaders in New York are asking the faithful to contact lawmakers about a measure to legalize physician-assisted suicide. Cardinal Timothy Dolan is joining the state's bishops in sounding the alarm over the proposals. The measures in the State House and Senate would amend New York public health law to allow a terminally ill adult with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request a medication from a doctor that would hasten his or her death. In a statement, the church leader said the measures would, quote, turn do no harm on its head, leaving vulnerable individuals, people with disabilities, the elderly, and those in impoverished and medically underserved communities, subject to pressure and coercion to end their lives so as not to be a burden to society or an excessive cost to insurance companies. For more, we turn to Alex Schadenberg, Executive Director at the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Alex, thanks for joining us. First off, tell us a little more about this measure in New York State. How did it start? Where do things stand now?
Well, assisted suicide has been debated in New York like this. There have bills year after year after year coming up, but it's not ever gone this far. So last week, the bill passed in the House Assembly, and so now it will go on to the Senate. So we're really hoping that it gets stopped in the Senate. So we have to be very clear, because when we're talking about assisted suicide, we're talking about a law that will give doctors the right in law to kill or to be directly involved with causing the death of their patients. This is, and we, people like us who are opposed to killing people, we recognize how important this is.
As we mentioned, Cardinal Timothy Dolan and the state's bishops released a statement asking the faithful to contact their lawmakers and voice their opposition. What did you make of the statement and what the church leaders are doing so far? Are they doing enough, and how do you actually see this playing out?
Well, I think the importance is that the church is speaking out and getting people active, because we need to act as citizens in every state that we live, every place that we live, because the government wants to move forward on these things, and this is like a cost-cutting measure to kill people. Now, I'm a Canadian. What we've seen in my own country is a lot of people with disabilities have now died by euthanasia based on being poor, homeless, people who have had a hard time getting medical treatment. These are not very different than the issues that would be faced in New York. Now, the other thing about it is the New York bill, I call it to be, it's like a Trojan horse type bill. They claim it's really tight, but the goal for this bill is they want to get it passed. And like in all other states, like right now in the U.S., there's 6 states that have legal assisted suicide where they're trying to expand their laws. So there's 10 states total that have legal assisted suicide, but 6 of the states are trying to expand their laws. So what you see is this goal of legalizing and then expanding the law once it's legal. So this is what's going on in New York right now.
All right, a lot of moving parts. We also know Prime Minister Mark Carney recently won a snap election. You said the vote was one of the most important in the country's history. Why do you say that, and what does Prime Minister Carney's win mean for assisted suicide in Canada, do you think?
Yeah, we're very concerned about what's happening in Canada. So in March, the UN Council on People with Disabilities condemned Canada's euthanasia law, and they called for the government to reverse portions of the law, that we stop allowing euthanasia for people who aren't terminally ill, that we prevent euthanasia for people who are mentally ill, because that's part of the law that they're expanding to, that we not allow child euthanasia, because the government has advocated for child euthanasia. These are all things that are coming at us in Canada, and the problem is this liberal government we've had has been in place for almost 10 years, and now you have a new leader, but it's the same people. So we are in great fear that they'll continue in the same direction. So basically, we've been pushing very hard that they do a complete review of the law, because that's never been done. So we've had a lot, like every year, our euthanasia deaths are expanding very quickly, and it's being normalized, and that's a great concern. We're doing what we can to try and make a difference, but I'm very concerned about our new government.
Obviously a developing story. Alex, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the time.